Pastor Ronnie, Senior Pastor of Greater St. Matthew's Church. Thank you for viewing us today from your place of viewing. Let's pray. Let's pray. Lord, lift our heads, brush away the shadows of guilt, and shine your grace into our minds, giving us strength to arise to worship. We shake off the shackles of a fallen world and join with heaven to sing your praises. We will declare your goodness now and celebrate your greatness forever. Amen.
Good morning, Greater St. Matthew family. We are back for another week of worship in the Greater St. Matthew Cyber Sanctuary. We are super excited today on this sensational Sunday because even in the midst of continued uncertainty, we serve a God who is the same today, yesterday, and forever. So to all of our new online visitors, you are always welcome. And as always, thank you so much for being here. As always, we have two rules: to share this worship service, and please don't keep it to yourself. Let everybody know. The second rule is let us know where you're logging in from, because we are connecting to visitors all across the globe and it continues to grow. All right, let's go. You know how we do. Grab your seat and your Bible and let everyone you know tell them to meet you in the Greater St. Matthew Cyber Sanctuary. Come on, saints, let's go to church.
Every day of my life, I get a new blessing. Or the Lord sends new blessings my way. And he does it over and over and over again. Come on, y'all.
You keep on blessing me over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
You keep on blessing me over and over again.
We talking about the Lord now.
You keep on blessing me over and over again. You keep on blessing me over and over again.
Lord, you keep on blessing me.
You keep on blessing me
Over and
over
over.
and over again.
You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and over.
over and over again.
You woke me up this morning. You started me on my way. You gave me the strength to make it through another day. You gave me eyes to see. You gave me a tongue to talk. And I want to thank you, Jesus, for giving me my legs to walk. You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and
over
over.
and over again.
Lord, you keep on blessing
You
me.
keep on blessing me
Over and
over
over.
and over again.
Lord, you keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and over.
over and over again.
You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and over.
over and over again.
Listen. Now I can move around and I can wave my hand.
I can wave my
And when
hand.
you speak to me,
Come on.
Lord, I can understand.
I can understand.
I got a home to live in
Come on, bro. Come on.
where I can lay my head.
Come on.
I could have been sleeping in my grave, but you kept me alive instead. You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and
over
over.
and over again.
Lord, you keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and
over
over.
and over again.
Lord, you keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and
over
over.
and over again.
You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me
Over and over.
over and over again.
And I want to thank you.
Thank
some food to eat.
I got some food to eat.
You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing
You
me.
keep on blessing me.
Keep on
You
blessing me.
keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me.
You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me.
Over and over.
Over and over again.
It's over and over.
Over and over again.
And over and over.
Over and over again.
It's over and over.
Over and over again.
And I gotta tell you, thank you.
Thank you, Jesus.
I need to tell you, thank you.
Thank you, Jesus.
I just wanna say thanks.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
'Cause you keep on blessing me.
You keep on blessing me.
Every day.
You keep on
In
blessing me.
every way.
You keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me.
You keep on blessing me.
Oh, yeah.
Lord, I thank you. Lord, I thank you.
Lord, I thank you.
Lord, I thank you.
Lord, I thank you.
Lord, I thank you.
'Cause you keep on blessing me.
You keep on
You
blessing me.
keep on blessing me.
You keep on blessing
I'm
me.
devoted to you.
You keep on blessing
Because you
me.
brought me through.
You keep on blessing
You
me.
keep on blessing me.
Keep on blessing me.
Over and over.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, Greater St. Matthew family. I'm Pastor E. Now, I've been coming for almost 20 weeks and speak to you during this time. Now, on behalf of Pastor Ronnie and Greater St. Matthew family, I want to say thank you, and your gifts are making a difference. Now, our church doors are closed, but our ministries are still busy doing the work of God. Now, there are expenses to do the ministry work effectively. Therefore, your gifts are much needed. Now it's time for your tithe and offering, so let's continue to be faithful with the resources God has blessed us with.
You can give your tithe and offering through PayPal, Greater St. Matthew Church, or mobile app Tithely. Text GIVE to 936-209-8875. That's 936-209-8875. Tithes and offerings may also be dropped off at the church between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. or sent by mail to Greater St. Matthew Church, 7701 Jutland Street, Houston, Texas, 77033.
Thank you very much for your liberal giving.
To commemorate your special day. Now, if your birthday is in between April and August of 2020, that's April and August of 2020, we need you to submit a picture of yourself with your contact information to gsmbirthdays@gmail.com. Now, it's one picture per person, please. The deadline is noon Wednesday. Don't miss it. That's noon Wednesday. This is going to be so good. So get your picture.
Sunday afternoon, leave your cares for Monday.
My prayer today is that Pastor Ronnie will share a word that will not only inform your life today, but it will transform your life, inspire and ignite your spirit, and even create a new excitement for God and what He's doing this season in your life. Now, without any further hesitation, I give you my pastor, your pastor, America's pastor, Pastor Ronnie Booker.
My
hello again. I want to say thank you for viewing us today. Turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 14, verse 27. Matthew chapter 14, verse 27. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." Matthew 14 tells us about the ministry movements of Jesus. Matthew 14 has 36 verses in it. Now, a good way to understand, a better way to understand Matthew 14 is to break the 36 verses up into sections. The first section is verses 1 through 13. The second section is verses 14 through 21. And the final section is verses 22 through 36. And today I want to look at verses 22 through 33. Now, in verse 21, Jesus has just fed 5,000 people. But in verse 22, and straightway. Straightway means immediately. Your homework this week is to use straightway in a sentence. Use it in a sentence when you're talking to someone this week. Tell someone in your house, "It's over straightway." What? And straightway, Jesus constrained or begged his disciples to get into the ship, to go to the other side while he did what? Sent the multitudes away. Now I'm preaching Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 and through 33. And Matthew is not the only one to tell the story. Mark tells the story, and John tells the story. Now, Luke doesn't tell the story. Matthew tells it in chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. Mark tells it in chapter 6, verses 45 through 51. John tells it in chapter 6, verses 16 through 21. Now you need to read all of their accounts because they all say something different. And they all say something similar. So some of you are saying that's why I don't like to read the Bible, because the same stories are told differently, and it's confusing to me. It's confusing to me. But you watch the news. You watch the news, and whether you watch ABC or NBC or CBS and James, they all tell the same stories. They all tell the same stories, but they tell them from a different perspective. So read each story. Read each story, because in Matthew chapter 14, verse 22, Jesus told his disciples to get in a boat. Mark said the same thing, but Linda, John says Jesus didn't tell them to get into the boat. They got in the boat on their own. Now watch this. Matthew, Mark, and John all say that Jesus wanted to deal with the multitude. John says he had to deal with the multitude because after Jesus fed the 5,000, the people wanted to make him king. They wanted to make him king. And Jesus didn't want his disciples to be participating in that foolishness. So he said, y'all get in the boat. Y'all get in the boat while I deal with these people. Because when you know who you are, people can't make you what you don't want to be. I got more message than I got minutes. I got more message than I have minutes. They wanted to make him king. Jesus said, no, to the no. I'm already king. And anybody who makes you something, when they get mad at you, they can take it away. They can take it away. So he told them to get into the boat. Now in verse 23, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went into the mountain and he prayed. I wish I had time to talk about after success, he prayed. He had just fed 5,000 people. Maybe his prayer was, Lord, don't let me get the big head. And when the evening was come, he was there in that mountain all by himself. He was in that mountain all by himself. And in verse 24, but the ship that the disciples were in was in the middle of the sea, tossed by the wind and the waves. In verse 25, the text say, and in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on water, walking on the sea. Now Mark says Jesus saw them struggling to row through the storm. And watch this. He's on land. They are at sea, but he sees them. He's on land. They are at sea, but he sees them. And you need to know, no matter where you are and what you're going through in your life, preach, Pastor, the Lord sees you. The Lord sees you. He saw them struggling. King James says he saw them toiling and rowing, which means God sees you struggling to pay that house note. He sees it. God sees you struggling to raise those children as a single parent. God sees you struggling to make ends meet. I love it. I love it, Kim. I love it. The text say, since they couldn't get to him, preach it all. Come on, preach. He came to them. He came to them. I wish I had time to talk about he will meet you at your point of need. He will meet you right where you are. He'll meet you right where you are. If you're separated, he will meet you. If you're struggling with whether you're a man or a woman, he'll meet you. If you're an alcoholic, he'll meet you. I love it, Ann. I love it. I love it, Ann. The text says he came walking on water. He came walking on water. Verse 26, and when his disciples saw him walking on water, they got afraid. And they all start crying, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. But straightway, tell someone in your house what straightway means. But immediately, Jesus said to them, take a chill pill. Take a chill pill. Be of good cheer. It is I. You don't have to be afraid. And I wish I had time to talk about he came to them in an unusual way. An unusual way. The unusual way was walking on water. Now quit expecting God to show up the same way all the time. God came in an unusual way. And I'm at the point in my life now, Virginia, however he wants to show up, it's all right with me. Just show up. If you want to come by telephone, come by telephone. If you want to come by email, come by email. If you want to touch somebody's heart to write a check for $30,000, do that. However you show up. Now, I put that in there. For the big ballers out there that's streaming. He came in an unusual way. Don't talk about this. They don't talk about this. In the storm, Jesus shows up. They talk about that. But in verse 28, and Peter said, Lord, if that really is you out there on that water, let me come out there with you. Now, in verse 29, I love it, Sister Larry. And Jesus said, come on, dude. Come on, dude. I wish I had time. I wish I had time to talk about Jesus don't mind you being where he is. Jesus don't mind you being where he is. Not only don't Jesus mind you being where he is, Jesus don't mind you doing what he's able to do. Peter said, let me come out there with you. And Jesus said, come on. Watch this. And Peter came out of the ship and walked on the water to go to Jesus. He walked on the water. Now, outside of Jesus, Peter is the only one that walked on water. And when you get to heaven and start bragging about what kind of car you drove, Peter is going to say to you, but did you ever walk on water? I know it's a nice car, but did you ever walk on water? When you talk about all the money you made and all the people you influenced, Peter's going to say, I bet you never walked on water. In verse 30, now look, you really would be interested in this stuff if you just open your Bible at the 11 a.m. worship service. That's why you're looking around. That's why you're all frustrated. In verse 30, but when he saw the wind boisterous. Boisterous means when he saw the wind giving him hell. When he saw the wind giving him hell. For the second assignment this week, use these two words as you talk to others, straightway and boisterous. Now, when your children wake up in the morning, you should tell them, we will not have any of that boisterous behavior today. You come up with it. You come up with the way you want to use it. Now, he saw the wind and the waves, and he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he said, Lord, save me. Lord, save me. In verse 31, and immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said, O you of little faith, why are you doubting? In verse 32, then they got back into the ship, and the wind ceased. And then they that were in the ship came and worshiped, saying, of a truth, thou art the Son of God. This is an amazing story. This is an amazing story. Now, if you give me about 7 minutes, just 7 more minutes, I want to share with you potential outcomes of storms in your life. potential outcomes of storms in your life. Now, number one, storms in your life have the potential to shift you in verses 28 and 29. Now, there goes that word again, shift, with the F. Now, I want to show you in the text. Watch this, shift. In verses 28 and 29, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come out on that water. In verse 29, Jesus said, come on. Then Peter got down out of the boat. Now watch this, Regina. Watch this. Shift means making a change. Come on, preacher. Come on. Making a change. You know, shift means I'm making a change. And the biggest change sometimes you need to make is you have to get away from some people. You got to get away from some people. Say amen loud in your house. Say amen loud in your house. You got to get away from some people, because who was Peter around? The disciples. And the boat that they were in is going down. And Peter is wise enough to know, I ain't going down like this. I ain't going out like this. So instead of me staying in this sinking ship, I might as well go to a stabilizing Savior. Come on, preach it now. Preach it. So Peter probably was hearing on that sinking ship. When he said, I'm going to make a change. The others say, no, you ain't. No, you ain't. You ain't able to make a change. You ain't able to do that. Your ACT scores ain't high enough to make a change. But there comes a time, regardless of what people think and regardless of what people say, you got to make up your mind that I'm going to make a shift. And before you can make a shift with your body, you got to shift with your mind. Because until you make up your mind that I'm going to make some changes, you'll still be in the same situation that you're in. But when you make up your mind, I need a shift. Holler in your house, shift. Write it in the comment section. Shift. Now Peter could have said, Lord, if it's you, build a sidewalk between this ship and you so that I can walk to you. Peter could have said, if it's really you, just allow me to be in your arms off this ship. No, storms have a potential to help you to shift. Now watch this. Storms in your life are not just to shift you. Storms, number two, storms in your life have the potential to drift you. Verse 30. So a storm can shift you and a storm can drift you. Now look at this in verse 30. Verse 30 says, when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink. You see that, Tanya? Now, he was going down. And here's the whole point, Brother Patterson. He was good as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus. But when he begins to look at stuff around him, and the same way with you and I, as long as we keep our eyes on Jesus, we are all right. But when we start looking at stuff around us, we get in trouble. That's why when we get back in the building, we've been out of the building about 19 weeks, but whenever we get into the building, some of you don't need to sit in the back of the church. You just don't need to sit in the back of the church because you get distracted. You need to sit up close as possible, and you need to sit next to folk that ain't texting and talking and gossiping and lying and sleeping and tweeting. When they start all that foolishness, you need to tell them, I need to keep my eyes on Jesus. I need to keep my eyes on Jesus because you don't know what's going on in my house. You don't know what's going on in my house. You don't know how bad I need a breakthrough. I got 4 emails I sent to the pastor on ronald.booker2020@yahoo.com. I got 4 emails that I sent to the pastor for prayer for stuff that I need, and I ain't got time. I ain't got time to fool with you and your foolishness, especially when the word of God is being preached. Watch this, Deborah. Watch this. He took his eyes off of Jesus and he started to go down. But the text says, beginning to sink, he cried out. Beginning to sink, he cried out. Beginning to sink. He started drifting. But he cried out. He cried out. Now the brother was walking on water. Walking on water, Jimmy. And all of a sudden, he's walking on water. All of a sudden, his knees buckled. And as soon as his knees buckled, he said, Jesus! He didn't wait until he went down, and as soon as he felt that he wasn't as high as he wanted to be, he said, Jesus. Come on, preach it, Pastor. Come on, come on. As soon as you bounce that first check, you ought to say, Jesus. As soon as that man rises up on you and look at you like he's going to put hands on you, Jesus, and then get a hot grits and a iron pan, because somebody out there knows that there is power in the name of Jesus. And when you call on the name of Jesus, the Lord will do some stuff that will turn your situation around. Holler in your house, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Type in the section, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. He begins to sing. He begins to sing. Beginning. Now, that's why you ain't in the Bible. That's why you ain't in the Bible, because you would have been going down talking about, it's all right. It's all right. I'm all right. Sinking. I'm good. I'm good. No! When you begin to sink, you gotta holler, Jesus. Yes, storms have a potential to shift you. Storms have a potential to drift you, but when you are drifting, the Lord wants to hear from you. Come on, preach. Come on, preach. When you're drifting, you can call on the Lord. When you are drifting, God is concerned about you. When you're backsliding, God is still concerned about you. When you're living with somebody and y'all ain't married, God is still concerned about you. When you're guilty of fornication and gassing all last night, God is still concerned about you. But you gotta call on him. You gotta call on him. And here's the last one. In closing, number 3, storms in your life have a potential to lift you. Verses 31 through 34. And 31, immediately. Give a meaning to someone in your house for the word immediately. Straightway. Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Lisa, you see how he lifted him. Now maybe he hasn't lifted you. Maybe he hasn't lifted you because you don't even know that you're sinking. You don't even know you're sinking. Maybe he hasn't lifted you because you haven't called on him. You called everybody else, but you haven't called on him. And Jesus said, Peter, why are you doubting? And then he put the brother, he put the brother back on the ship and the wind ceased. Now, Peter is willing to leave people and the ship to get to Jesus. And whatever you're willing to leave for Jesus, when you get to Jesus, he'll put it back in your life. He put him back in the ship, and the wind ceased. In verse 33, and when the wind ceased, then they worship. So when God brings you out of that storm, you got to worship. When God turns that situation around for you, you got to worship. When God fixes that problem for you, you got to worship. When God does it for your child, you got to worship. When God does it for on your job, you got to worship. When your health is restored, you have to worship. And the best way to worship him after the storm is to worship him during the storm. And they left saying, this is the Son of God. Sometimes, God allows storms to come to show you who he really is. This is the Son of God. Watch this. John said at the end of the story that Jesus calmed the sea, and they had forgotten about the loaves. Listen, Jesus calmed the sea, and the disciples had forgotten about the miracle that he had just done with the loaves, which means sometimes we get so caught up in what we're experiencing right now, and I know it's hard, that we forget about what God has brought us through. And if I can always remember the stuff that God has brought me through, it encourages me. It encourages me for my new storm. To let me know if you did it before. Because storms are going to come. Monica, storms going to come. And storms are like hide and go seek. Ready or not, here I come. But when storms come, you have to make up in your mind, this storm is going to shift me. This storm isn't going to drift me. This storm is going to lift me, because God has got a gift for me. And this is the Word of God. Now, somebody needs Christ. Somebody needs a church like Greater St. Matthew. You need a change. And God can do it for you. Go to Greater St. Matthew's website and check the box, and someone from my staff will follow up with you. Also, you can write me personally. You can write me personally at ronald.booker2020@yahoo.com. And I'll pray a special prayer for you. Let me know what you need me to pray for, and I'll pray a special prayer for you. And if you have any questions, I'll answer any questions that you have, and I'll do it personally. Thank you for your generosity over the 19 weeks that we have been out of the building. Greater St. Matthew's members, friends, and supporters of this ministry all over this country. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you can continue to give 3 ways electronically, or you can mail or bring or your seed into the church. All that information electronically and all is on the screen. You can bring your mail or you can bring your seed to 7701 Jutland, Houston, Texas, 77033. Again, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Now listen, we will not have the parking lot worship service next Sunday. We will not have the parking lot worship service next Sunday. We'll worship on streaming next Sunday, and also take communion on the streaming platform. You just need some bread, a cracker, and juice. Also, you can still go to the southeast location next Sunday and drop off your seed and take communion from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., or the southwest location from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. to drop off your seed and take communion. Now, Lil Ronnie have a new routine for the Greater St. Matthew virtual workout this Monday at 6 p.m. So say hello to us, Lil Ronnie.
Thank you, Pastor Booker, and hello, GSM. First off, I would like to thank the camera crew that helps me get these workouts to the social media. Joshua Booker, Michael Poole, James Newell, we appreciate you. Secondly, I want to thank you, GSM, for watching and trying the stationary workouts during this pandemic time. So tomorrow at 6, we will continue to be active physically and spiritually through good Christian workouts. See you soon.
And don't forget to send those birthday photos from April through August to gsmbirthdays@yahoo.com. It'll be on the screen. gsmbirthdays@yahoo.com. No later than Tuesday. Now, see you sooner than later. And hey, you know what we gonna say? Stay safe, sanitize, and biblically sane with a sound mind. May the Lord bless you real good.
Pastor Ronnie, thank you so much for God's word today. It is our prayer that soon you will be able to experience the Greater St. Matthew worship service in person. But until then, it really does matter that you chose to worship with us today. So keep liking, keep subscribing, keep sharing it with all of your friends. And remember, as Pastor Ronnie says, stay safe, stay sanitized, and stay biblically sane. And until next time, we love you, we miss you, and may God bless you.